Greetings and blessings, YouTube. This is John the Jansenist, and this is going to be a video with a little bit of a different topic. In previous videos, I've been discussing general theology and the divergence between Old Catholicism and Protestantism, but tonight I'm actually going to be getting into the broader divergence between Christianity and secular humanism, and the topic in particular has to do with a video that I just saw recently. This is actually an old video that I'd seen before, but it recently came to my attention again, and this one's put up by a user named JJJco, and it's titled Richard Dawkins Stumped by Creationists Question. And the question that was asked, and I'll quote it verbatim right here, is can you give an example of a genetic mutation or an evolutionary process which can be seen to increase the information in the genome? Now, what follows after Dawkins was asked this question was a very long period of silence. It was about 8 or 9 seconds, and there was a very confounded look on Mr. Dawkins's face. And upon the conclusion of this video, he gets into a very vague discussion, which can be basically summed up as stating that the common ancestry of differing species goes back so far in time, we're talking back 300 million years, that we are not able to observe them from the, I would say, the best way I can put this is what he's saying is that there is no way to observe this through actual physical evidence because it was so far back in time, and there is really not any evidence yet, at least that's what I assume he would say, that that is observable that actually details how these processes worked. It's simply a matter of these processes make the most sense based on the evidence that we have. I'm assuming that's what the gist of his argument was. Now, I have a bit of a theory as to why he took so long to answer the question, and the reason for that is because there are only a few observable examples of mutations that actually do increase not so much the information in the genome, but the amount of genetic material in it, and that's Down syndrome. And in fact, another user by the name of I Am Rational actually gave this as an answer. Now, there's a problem with this, and the problem is that Down syndrome is not a forward step in the evolutionary process according to the current theory of evolution and the way that it groups together differing species in our ancestry. Give you an example. There are several dead-end species within the prognosticated ancestry of mankind according to the theory of evolution. We're talking essentially pre-Homo sapien era, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, and back further than that. We have examples of what are known as evolutionary dead ends. And the problem that Dawkins was running into here was that he was probably thinking of a couple examples of mutations that cause increases in genetic material and maybe as a result in some respect genetic information. The problem is none of these examples could actually illustrate a forward motion in the alleged evolutionary process. Down syndrome is a defect by basically every standard that we have. People with Down syndrome are not as capable of processing information as standard evenly balanced chromosome DNA in ordinary people are, just to use a colloquial term there. Ordinary, or at least is colloquial in that sense, in regards to the more proper Homo sapiens sapiens, which is the current technical scientific name for the species that currently accounts for the human race. So, my assertion on this example is as such. I've read several of Dawkins's works. I haven't read all of them, and I've read works of other various scientists. I am actually a former atheist who was a proponent of both macroevolution as an explanation of the origin of species and also the theory of abiogenesis. Upon further review of both of these theories, I have abandoned both of them, and I have reaffirmed my childhood faith in Christianity. I was out of the church for roughly 4 years, from my late teens to my early 20s. And during the latter part of this period, I began a process of inquiry into all of these theories. There are several different variants on the theory of abiogenesis, and what all of them accomplish is they answer one question and then leave 3 or 4 others unanswered. And then the other theories answer those other questions individually, but then they throw out the answer that was given in the previous version of the theory. The problem with abiogenesis, and also with macroevolution as it's being presented by people like Dawkins on a genetic level, is that there isn't any observable evidence to show the actual information in the genome being increased by a viewable evolutionary process that can be seen as working in a beneficial way towards the species. The sad truth is that in order to fully assert that the theory of evolution, as it is called, is true, is to take a leap of faith. Now, to be fair, a lot of evolutionists will contend that, the evidence is out there, we just have to find it. Well, that's perfectly fine by me, but until we find that evidence, we're not going on a fully answered proposition here. We're going through a partially answered proposition, one that cannot be fully factually proven, and according to Popper's own standard, it can't be falsified. They tried putting abiogenesis into a laboratory experiment, and they came out with results that were contrary to every tenet of carbon dating and our current understanding of what the atmospheric conditions of that particular time must have been. In essence, in order to make the amino acids combine together to form proteins in this lab experiment, they had to set a certain type of environmental condition that is not found anywhere in the meteorological history of this planet. Now, this obviously leaves open a bunch of questions if we doubt the theory of abiogenesis and the current working theory of macroevolution. Well, what are we supposed to accept and what are we supposed to reject? We accept everything that is scientific insofar as it meets all of the standards set forth within the field of science and the scientific method. As confessing Christians, we are not obligated to throw out the baby with the bathwater simply because we subscribe to a particular view of the book of Genesis, be it young earth creationism, gap creationism, or any other. I tend to prefer either gap creationism or young earth creationism because they are interpretations of Genesis that don't involve any encroachment from external human philosophy. Now, gap creationism does have a few problematic elements to it. It attempts to assert that the differing days within the first 6 days of Genesis had differing time lengths. And I'm not fully on board with that theory, but I am still currently debating which version of the interpretation of Genesis I actually believe in, but I am leaning towards the classical young earth interpretation. And I do that primarily because I've seen too much evidence with regards to the fossil record that makes me doubt the authenticity of our current methods of carbon dating. Nonetheless, I leave open the possibility that I could be wrong on that. But the important thing to learn from the example in this video is that as much as people like Dawkins will assert as loudly as possible that they have all of the necessary information, they don't. And when they assert that that religion is the enemy of science, it is our duty to assert back, no, that is not the case. We are not rejecting all of these great things that we've benefited by because of science. We're rejecting one thing, a as of yet unsubstantiated theory regarding the origin of us, ourselves, everything around us. The planet, the universe, all of it. There is simply not enough evidence in the scientific field to assert with any level of certainty that any of this is true. Now, this doesn't mean that it could be true, but the problem is that secular humanists and atheists who subscribe to these theories speak as though they are fully proven and undeniable. And then when pushed on it and they're forced to admit that it isn't is not undeniable, they'll simply say, oh, but it makes more sense to me than magical creationism. And at that point, the conversation pretty much ends. But I'm just going to close with this assertion. There is no observable evidence to suggest that the theories put forward by Charles Darwin and all that have followed him with regards to the origin of species are wholly and undeniably correct. And since we don't have enough evidence, no atheist is in any position to assert that any Christian, for rejecting these theories, is any less intelligent and any more hostile to science than the next person. If you want to get into denouncing modern fundamentalists who think that microwaves are evil, that's another matter altogether. But that's not what I confess, and that's not what most young earth creationists confess. They believe in all of the processes that made it possible for all of the technology and all of the life-saving medicines that we have today. But what they don't subscribe to is something that they are being asked to take on faith within the context of science, because the two, let's face it, do not go together. Science is the realm of reason. Religion is the realm of faith. When you bring faith into science, it ceases to be science. And when you encroach too much upon human reason with regards to religion, essentially we come into the realm of philosophy rather than religion. The two are distinct from each other. They are not wholly separate from each other, but they are distinct and they should be kept that way. And as such, no atheist is in a position to lecture any Christian regarding their credentials as appreciators of science. So until next time, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, God be with you all.